Yes, hello everyone and welcome to all our West Australian football fans to another edition of Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League here at the BackChat studios. Well, round 18 done and dusted, another exciting weekend of football, and it now leaves the race in the top 5 wide open more than ever before, with now at least 7 teams looking to make the 5, and for 5th place in particular, it has now turned into a 3-way dance between West Perth, Claremont and Swan districts. Paul Persick is my name. It's a great pleasure to have your company on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. And I'm joined today by a man with a license to thrill, even without a license. Mark Foreman, he joins me here today. Forey, welcome along, mate.
That's a new one. Hello, Paul. Good to be here once again. Yeah, and another good weekend of waffle. What is it? How do I get a license? How do I do that?
I don't know. If it's the first time I've heard of that.
Oh, well,
you get a license to thrill even without a license.
I'll look into it. Yeah, I will look into it.
But seriously, round 18, it's now wide open in the fight for 5th place. West Perth staying alive, Swan districts getting back into form this late in the season, and Claremont fading with 4 straight losses.
We asked for it, and we've got a nice little finish for that 5th spot. So you told us this was happening 4 weeks ago. We would have told you were crazy. So it's really cool that it's heating up towards the end. And look, we will talk about Swan districts a little later, but they're certainly ruining. I think it's 5 games under 7 points that they've lost, and they're certainly ruining that, which means that they've left probably a bit too much work to do. So it's probably West Perth to lose that spot, particularly given Swan district's percentage as well. So Claremont, one we'll talk about as well. They've allowed West Perth into the hunt. So it's a frantic finish.
Absolutely, and what a result round 18 was for all those teams, especially in that race for 5th place. We'll talk more about that a little later. In just a moment, we'll have Brady Grey from the Peel Thunder Football Club joining us to talk about their win over the Tigers. But before we do, we just want to remind you that every game in the WAFL season is live, free and in full on the AFL app. We've got a big weekend in round 19, and you can see all those games on the AFL app, and we'll preview that round on Thursday. This is Around the WAFL, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. And a great game our special guest played against Claremont over the weekend. It was a big win for the Thunder at Lane Group Stadium this past Saturday, keeping their hopes of the double chance alive with 2 rounds to go. He had 19 possessions, took 5 brilliant marks, and according to some, he's been rated the most handsome man in the WAFL, apparently, along with Connell Lynch and Mark Reddings. Brady Grey, he joins us here on Around the WAFL today. Brady, hello mate, congratulations on a great game.
Yeah, thank you very much. The lads played really well, and we'll have to get the result in the end.
It was a must-win against a side that was losing a bit of its edge, Claremont, but you knew it was going to be a hard game, especially when they had a couple of their key forwards and mids back for this game as well. It was going to be a real tough task, and your boys delivered.
Yeah, as you said, they're stacked. I think they got 2 or 3 10-over mellers running around and some quality players. And yeah, they obviously haven't been getting the results recently, so we knew they were coming down with a hard edge. And we were able to respond to that for most of the game. So, we've sort of spoken the last few weeks about the privilege of playing against the best teams, and we were happy to get the result on the weekend.
Brady, how do you find the mix between AFL listed players and obviously WAFL players? You're an alignment club, but things seem to be working pretty well at Peel. Yeah.
We're really big on our connection between both groups. Obviously, we've had the alignment for I think it's about 10 years now, and we've had some success. But with Jeff Valentine coming on board the last 18 months, there's been a real focus on bringing both groups together as much as we can. Obviously, the Waffle boys having their day-to-day jobs, and the Freo lads sort of doing their own thing. But every opportunity we've had to sort of connect the groups, we've been able to. And we go through most weeks, and there's a change at least 1 or 2, and sometimes 7 or 8. So the ability to be able to connect during the week and basically rock up game day knowing what each group's going to bring, and then we're just trying to execute on game day. And as I said before, Jeff's been a big driver in that, and the leadership groups at both levels have been great.
Brady, we hear it in footy sort of at all levels, but it seems to be the bottom group of players that take teams from being good to great. And when we're talking about an alignment system, those waffle-specific players, they've really shone through this year, haven't they?
Yeah, it's a byproduct of what Matt Rosa and the team are doing down there. We've brought in, as you know, the list changes every year, but there's been a real strong focus on bringing our Colts kids through who won the flag last year, getting some guys from the Peel Footy League to come up and actually be a part of the club. And you look at guys like Brady Grey, who's come from South Mandurah. We've got 3 or 4 other guys from South Mandurah within the team, and then our connection down at Harvey to bring guys up from the southwest. They've all been around the club for a while now, and we're starting to see the fruition of those guys being a part of the WAFL League system. And we know if we want to go into finals, firstly to qualify and then go deep, we're going to have to call on these guys and making sure they're ready. But yeah, as you said, we've had guys come through, like specifically Brady Wham and then Clay Hall from the Colts program that have come into our team and been able to execute their role.
Clay Hall's been a good player on the rise, like you said, coming from the Colts system. 20 touches for him against Claremont. He provided great service from the middle. How do you see his future at the club?
Yeah, I don't think we'll have him too much longer than this year, but himself, Reece Time, Mitch Edwards and Joel Rush, we're all part of the Colts team at the start of the year and played state footy and now part of our senior program. Obviously, Clay's played 6 or 7 games now and been exposed to the level, and he's bringing his strength to the game, and by playing good footy with us, it's going to help him progress through and hopefully have an AFL career. But Mitchy Edwards is working with Maxie Noble in the reserves, and they're working their ruck craft together. And then Reece Torrent's been emergency for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he's sort of banging the door now with his Resi's form to maybe play a league game in the next few weeks. So it's a product of what we've been able to produce through the Colts program, although they haven't had the results on the board this year. A lot of the guys that played last year are playing league footy. Even Michael Selwood, he played in the flag last year with the Colts boys. He's played 10, 12 league games this year. So, it's all sort of clicking for us in terms of our transition from Colts to league footy.
That blend from youth to experience really gelling so well this season and is reflected in your standing on the ladder. Congrats to you on the side on a great win over Claremont. Thanks for your time, Brady, here on Around the WAFL. Good luck on Saturday against West Perth. It's a really big game over there at Lane Group Stadium. Thanks for your time, Brady.
Yes, thank you.
That was Brady Grey from the Peel Thunder Football Club joining us. Great game from the Thunder, a superb win. They got another big test against the reigning premiers. That one is going to be a real beauty.
Certainly will. And I was going to try and sneak in a little question there. I didn't know. I wonder if he knows that he's the most eligible. Well, I was going to say eligible bachelor. I don't know if he's eligible
I'm not,
bachelor.
I didn't ask him that.
What did you call him? The most
handsome man in the WAFL.
Okay.
It's a 3-way tie between him, Connell Lynch and Mark Reddings.
There you go.
And if anyone disagrees with me on that, I won't be impressed.
All right, there you go. No, it will be a good game. Like we've got so many of them in these last 2 rounds, and that carries such significance. So, looking forward to keeping an eye on that. And I was able to see Peel a couple of weeks ago, albeit against that day a pretty poor West Coast side, but they've got the tools there to cause some problems deep in September.
They certainly do. Currently in that top 5, 2 weeks to go. Anything can happen. Of course, games in round 19 this coming weekend are live, free and in full on the AFL app. You're with Paul Persick and Mark Foreman here on Around the WAFL. Okay, let's go to the action for round 18. First off, at the WACA Grand, it lived up to the billing, top spot on the ladder on the line, and it was East Fremantle who stand alone. They were victorious by 14 points, 15-6 to 12-10. But East Perth, I don't think their confidence should be lowered that much after the game, because the way they came back into the game late in the third quarter through Amajuri and Crowden, who did brilliantly in the midfield, providing such key clearances, was so important. But in the end, class told, and East Fremantle were able to get the job done through the work of Harrison Marsh, who unquestionably played his best game of the season.
Yeah, he was great. Obviously kicked 3 and had a ton of footy as well. But second quarter from East Fremantle was commanding. 7 goals to 4. They just sort of put the foot down. And it's always hard to sort of play catch-up footy, when you fall behind. But it was pretty much worthy of a top-of-the-table clash, I think.
The standard of footy as well,
Yeah.
It was so exemplary from both teams, and both were kicking quite accurately for much of that game as well. And that's the brand of footy a lot of WAFL fans want to watch, and they certainly got it in spades over there at the WACA.
Yeah, and it was, besides that second quarter, it was a bit of an arm wrestle, and that's sort of what we can expect in the last few weeks of the season and going into finals. That's, probably as close to finals footy as you get. It's hard to kick away, but East Fremantle showed us what they can do when they sort of slammed on 7. So, they're rightly so. And I think I said last week that'll pretty much sew up top spot for them, I think.
Pretty much at this stage, they're 1 game clear.
Yeah, it'd be hard to knock them off from there. So, Strong, like really strong game. And you're right, Mitch Croden I thought was awesome for East Perth. He not only found a lot of the footy, kicked a goal as well, but tackled really strongly. I think he had I think it was 9 tackles. So,
Correct, yeah.
A huge body of work from a player like that, which we expect. He's come from higher systems as well. So, certainly not. They didn't disgrace themselves at all, East Perth, and they got quite close in the end.
Maybe a finals rehearsal after the game over there at the WACA. One problem, though, for East Fremantle, Dylan O'Reilly, he injured his hamstring. He only had the 4 touches. Huge blow for the Sharks heading into the game against Perth in round 19. But East Fremantle victorious and standing alone atop the ladder. And another game of finals implications on the Saturday at Lane Group Stadium. We mentioned it with Brady Grey. Peel Thunder, 13-13-91, victorious over Claremont, 8-11-59. We'll start off with the Thunder, and even though Blair Bell, he was laid out with back soreness, the depth of Peel Thunder is still very evident. Will Brodie laboured hard all over the ground at the 29 touches and 6 tackles, but I really love the work of Tom Emmett and Riley Smith as well. They didn't see as much of the football as what we would have anticipated, but the body of work and the impact was evident for Peel Thunder.
Yeah, it is, and you mentioned Will Brodie. Spoke to Justin Longmuir, I think it was last week. We heard him talk. To say, Will Brodie's coming back from injury, and I think this is his third game back. And he continues to find the ball and do a lot of that grunt work. So catch-22 for Peel, because if he's still around the Fremantle system, they might lose him. But he's playing some awesome footy. Sorry, when I say if he's still around, he is still around the Fremantle system. Obviously, whether he can break into that team, which would mean that Peel lose him, but. He's playing some awesome footy, and those guys you mentioned are going from strength to strength.
And Bailey Banfield as well, who kicked a sensational 4 goals from the 16 touches. He's a real gun up forward. As for Claremont, well, they had their usual suspects firing. Oliver Eastland dominated in the ruck, but didn't have a lot of support around him, especially when the game was on the line in that final quarter. He had the 43 hitouts. Jai Bolton, 30, and also Daniel Curtin, who was only playing in his second league game, starting to really mature as a prominent footballer, had another solid outing, 6 marks. But the execution, just the delivery in that forward line, just really wasn't there. That's been a major problem for Claremont over the last couple of weeks, and it's hard to figure out at the present time what has gone wrong over the last month. 4 straight losses, and out of the 3 teams we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Claremont, Swan Districts and West Perth, the Tigers are the most vulnerable. They may drop out of the 5.
It certainly looks that way now. We were speaking last week. This is a game they just couldn't drop, and they did drop it. And I think I kept saying how weird it was. This is very un-Claremont-like. It's almost no longer weird, because
especially with the stacked talent that they've got all around the ground.
Yeah, and it's almost, like I said, it's almost no longer weird, because that's 4 in a row now. So they're in a slump. They're in free fall, and it may well free fall out of the 5, because. Losing 4 in a row with West Perth snapping at their heels, and West Perth, are playing some really good footy. They're going from strength to strength. So it's danger time for Claremont. And the fixture better than I do. I think it's Swans coming up.
Swan Districts and then Perth in the last 2 weeks.
So, you especially 4 weeks ago, you look at them and go, oh, okay, well, they're both win, like they'll win them. And of course, the good news for Claremont is that it's still in their hands. So they are a game clear. So they don't need to look at other results. They control it. But they've lost 4 in a row. If they keep, if they drop one more, West Perth this week overtook them in percentage. So it's, although it's in their hands, it's risky times for Claremont. It
certainly is, with 2 rounds to go. It's going to be very fascinating to see how they can turn it around in the next 2 weeks. They are a much better side. I said this last week, they're a much better side than what they are at the moment. But nonetheless, a good win to Peel Thunder over there at Lane Group Stadium. 3rd game on the Saturday, it was Swan Districts against Perth. Swans just too good in the end, 14-14-98 to 11-4-70. And once again, Aidan Clark showing some great form at this time of the year. He only had the 17 touches, but what I was impressed with was how effective each one of them were in sending the Swans forward.
Yeah, and he's been great this year. So he was heavily clamped. So Perth sent, I'm not sure who it was, but they tagged him heavily. And this is exactly what you want from your good players. So heavily tagged, but still managed to do something. And in this case, he's kicked 3 goals. So in the AFL, you see it with players like, I'm certainly not saying Aidan Clark is like Marcus Bontempelli, but when you get clamped, the ability to kick goals or have an impact somewhere else, is just critical. And they've got an absolute gem in Aiden Clark, because that's exactly what he did. So although he struggled, I was going to say he struggled to find the footy. He was always around the footy, but he was just so heavily checked that he was unable to be, super influential. But kicking a couple of goals, a few goals, is really good. And he led from the front. It's real resilience there.
We also had some backup in midfield from Jackson McLaughlin, who is continuing to blossom as a prime midfielder for the Swans, especially in and under the contest. 27 touches. Jesse Turner, back to his usual best again, 34 touches and 8 marks. Perth didn't disgrace themselves. They didn't disgrace themselves on Saturday at home. 32 touches for Charlie Thompson, continuing to see plenty of the football. Michael Sinclair, the veteran, with 4 goals from 18 touches. And Jack Avery, again, was impressive. And Ajang, 19 hitouts in the ruck. He's continuing to get better and better.
Yeah, he is. And, worth mentioning, Charlie Thompson's one of their Victorian recruits who he's had a really good season, but he led from the front. And I think this was great signs from Perth. They've had let's be honest, they've had a stinker of a season, but Swans are playing really, really well, and Perth were right with them, right till the end. In fact, I think they weren't quite in front at 3/4 time, but they were right there. And that's really good signs for a young side, and they've got a lot to show. So it was the two Victorians, to be honest, Charlie Thompson and Jackson McLaughlin, who led the way on the ground. But there were some great signs. So it's there's a lot of hope there for Perth too.
Yeah, and a lot of hope for the Swans as well. With 2 rounds to go, they are still alive in that race for the 5. Let's go to the Sunday action. The early game at Leederville Oval kicked it all off. Subiaco, too good in the end for the West Coast Eagles, but the Eagles, they were a lot more disciplined, a lot more polished than what they were in the last couple of weeks. Even though they were dominated around the ground, they were able to keep in touch with the Lions for at least 3 quarters, 13-4 to 22-19. Subiaco, even though they had a big win, a big finish in that last quarter, inaccuracy in front of goal could be a little bit of a worry heading into their next 2 games.
Always is. And, perhaps not against a team like West Coast, but if you miss opportunities, it just so often comes back to bite you. So, look, not really something you can. I mean, you can train, you can shoot at goal, but we see it at any level of footy. Nobody tries to miss, but for whatever reason, it didn't all go straight for Subi. But well done to West Coast. They were within 5 goals at 3/4 time, and then unfortunately, just perhaps took the foot off the pedal a little bit, or to be honest, probably credit to Subi, who really put the accelerator down. So I think it was a 9-goal last quarter.
9-goal last quarter for Subiaco. And looking back on that game, it was really a battle of the forwards. Shannon Lucassen, 6 goals straight. Impressive for him from 13 touches.
Good North Beach boy there.
North Beach. Shout out to the North Beach folk over there. And Ben Sokol, 5 goals for. He had a monstrous day out, 10 marks inside the 50. And I said this a few weeks ago, he needed to get on a good run of form to really fire Subiaco up for the finals and get back that main source of scoreboard pressure that he was sort of missing midway through the season. And he's fired up with 5 goals for an incredible effort.
Yeah, we know the talent that he has and the danger that he possesses. He's probably almost an opposition team that he's the first one they look at, right? How do we cover him? Who do we send to him? I mean, look, 5 goals, 4 perhaps could have been more, but it was, like you said, it was like that across the board. I think Taj Schofield kicked 4 behinds as well. So, inopportune moments to miss, but they'll be fine. And it was a strong win.
It certainly was.
Business as usual.
Absolutely for Subiaco as they keep in touch with the top 3. And then the final game out at Fremantle Oval on the Sunday. West Perth, they needed to beat the Bulldogs to keep their finals hopes alive. They did what they had to do, 14-7 to 8-7 over the South Fremantle side. Their first win at Fremantle Oval over the Bulldogs in 5 years. But it did come at a cost. Their prime midfielder, Aaron Black, he did a hamstring and is likely to miss 3 weeks.
Well, there you go. So I was actually at the pub watching this one. It was on in the background, and I saw them having a chat to Aaron Black. And when I saw that he'd only had sort of 6 touches, that is a worry. And look, Sandover medalist, it's a big loss. He's a veteran of the club as well, so hard to cover. But he's just got to put the faith in his teammates now that they can do the job and get West Perth into the 5 and see how long that run can go. But look, whilst he's out, they've got some fantastic contributors, and Shane, another veteran, Shane Nelson found plenty of the footy, as did Luke Meadows. But they're doing what they need to do.
Absolutely.
West Perth, it's pretty simple for them. You just keep winning, and as soon as they drop one, they're out, and they just haven't dropped one.
Yeah, and they can't afford to drop any more heading into the final 2 rounds. But I think the real star in that game for me, besides Meadows and Nelson, was Noah Pecoraro. I thought his job as a utility to swing up forward was very effective. 15 touches, and he also had 6 tackles as well in the 50 and managed to steer home 3 goals as well. I think what Darren Harris did to utilise Noah Pecoraro as a very versatile player who can not only be that clutch intercept marker down back, but also a big goal sneak up forward is really effective as far as West Perth are concerned. He's played a very big role over the last 4 weeks.
They're invaluable assets, players like that can play both ends of the ground, and especially when you swing a player down the other end of the ground and they make an impact, like that's huge. And like you said, it wasn't yes, he kicked 3 goals, but following up tackling and pinch hitting in the ruck every now and then as well was pretty good.
And the problem for South Fremantle on the other side of that coin is that they are lacking those forward targets. They had Dylan Main as a laid out, Brendan Donaldson also out injured, and with Jimmy Miller, who's usually a prominent forward, playing in the ruck in place of Brock Higgins, and Solomon James doing a knee and missing the season, that leaves South Fremantle exposed, especially in that forward line, and the problems really showed. Their back line was really taken apart by the West Perth forwards.
Yeah, and when you lose, a key forward or 2, obviously the pecking order just goes down. So the first defender from the opposition goes to a player that probably wouldn't usually get the first defender, and you then have those flow-on effects. So we could see that with South Fremantle, and they're also a work in progress. We know that, but having re-signed the coach, and things are positive for the future for South Fremantle. Not the best season, but they'll be all right. And they've been unlucky with injury too, as you mentioned. So, West Perth were just too strong.
Yeah, they're really on a big run home towards September.
Before we move on, can you say that name 3 times very quickly for me, please?
What name are you thinking?
Noah Pecoraro?
Well, what are you thinking? Am I going to be cursed or something?
Pecoraro. It's just one of those tongue twisters,
Turn it up for you. Pecoraro. See, there you go.
Okay.
I hope you're happy with that one.
Too good for me, yeah.
No, but West Perth, they were too good when it mattered over there at Fremantle Oval. Another big win for them. Let's go to the ladder. After 18 rounds, East Fremantle, they stand alone atop the ladder after 7 wins in a row. They are looking very impressive. Subiaco jumped to 2nd. Peel Thunder jump up to 3rd. East Perth, with the loss at the Wacker on Saturday, dropped down to 4th. Claremont, 4 losses in a row and a bit of trouble in 5th place. West Perth and Swan Districts 6th and 7th respectively after 4 wins in a row. South Fremantle 8th, and then rounding out the bottom half, Perth and the West Coast Eagles, with 2 rounds still remaining. This is Around the Waffle, the official podcast of the West Australian Football League. All right, Forey, time to cast the votes for the Around the Waffle Player of the Year. It is really, really heating up. I know you're excited about this.
I always look forward to your votes, Paul, because you've got 5. So you've got 10 teams playing, and you've only got 5 players that you can give votes to. So I always like to see how you go here.
Let's go. Round 18. 1 vote. Bailey Banfield of Peel Thunder, up forward, impressive, 4 goals, effective inside the 50. So too, Ben Sokol. Now, he gets 2 votes, 5 goals from 10 brilliant marks. No matter who West Coast or any club are trying to put on him, Sokol just always seems to get the job done. And his 5-goal haul, again, another sign that he is back to his best form.
Well, 10 marks and 9 shots at goal in total as well. So, I thought he might have been a little higher, Paul. So I'll be interested to see what happens here.
3 votes, Luke Meadows of West Perth. I mean, when Aaron Black went off, Luke Meadows picked up the West Perth midfield, carried it on his back, and he really saw the football a lot of times. 32 disposals, 3 inside 50s, and the 6 marks to boot.
I like that you're including a bit of context in these votes as well. So that's handy. Yes, I can agree with that.
And I think this one as well adds plenty of it. Harry Marsh, he gets the 4 votes from East Fremantle. I mean, sensational game. Definitely his best of the season. 27 disposals, 8 tackles, and 9 inside 50s.
That'll be hard to beat. I'm wondering who has got the 5 then.
Well, the Around the Waffle top gun of round 18 from Swan Districts is Aidan Clark. I mean, only the 17 disposals, but I think you spoke about this a little earlier, a little bit of that Marcus Bontempelli. Yes, whenever he's got the football, he seems to deliver. His efficiency was outstanding. 17 disposals, effective in every one of them. And then he was heavily clamped, especially in that forward half, but he still found a way to kick 3 goals and provide Swan Districts with a much-needed target in that forward line. So Aidan Clark, he gets the top gong for round 18.
Well, there you go. So I suppose looking at numbers, I'd be very surprised to see him get the top gong. But as we spoke about, contextually, he was really, really important. So not only takes an opposition player away because he's being tagged, but it was able to kick 3 goals. And as you said, use the footy so well. And, when you have limited opportunities, you can still make an impact if you use it well, and that's what he did. So I don't hate it, Paul. I think a reasonable decision there.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, let's go to the leaderboard with 2 rounds to go. We do have a new leader, and that is Aidan Clark. He's got 17 votes. Zach Clark from Subiaco in second, just a vote behind. Tyler Keitel of West Perth is on third place with 12. Jarvis Pena of Swan Districts is on 11, as is Jai Bolton of Claremont. Then it's Mitch Crowden on 10, Luke Meadows and Milan Murdoch each on 9, and rounding out the top 10, Tom North and Fraser Turner. Really, it's down to at least those 10 that can still win the Player of the Year for 2023. It is an open race.
Oh, it is. And like I said, with only, you get the 5 votes, you can just explode up the leaderboard. So not surprisingly, we've got the 2 Clarks up the top, albeit different spellings. But they've been awesome this year. And actually got to chat to Zach Clark. He was doing a bit of work for the radio station I work for on Friday night. And just enjoying his footy, and it's been a common theme on this podcast the last few weeks. The more you enjoy your footy, the better you play, and I dare say our whole top 10 are probably having an enjoyable time.
Now, they certainly are. We certainly have had an enjoyable time here today on Around the Waffle. Forey, great job as always. I'll see you on Thursday.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Paul.
And we thank you, our viewers and our listeners, for joining us here on today's edition of Around the Waffle. Be sure to check us out as well on our socials, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Give us a big thumbs up. We really do appreciate it. You can also listen to us on wherever you get your podcasts or watch on YouTube. Stay tuned. We've got a big preview coming up on Thursday for Round 19. We'll see you then.